Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ben Stewart Podcast. If you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I speak very highly of the inner artist and what it means to come into contact with the inner artist. Why at this point in human history, I believe that art, as Terence McKenna said, putting the art pedal to the metal is truly the best way forward that we as a collective could pretty much ever come into contact with. And I say that not lightly. I say that because there is a nuance in art that knows how to circumvent a lot of the walls that we put up between us and the outside world. And one of my favorite artists that I've come into contact with, that I've known for quite some time, his name is Chris Dyer. Now, the first thing I want to do is show you what Wikipedia has to say about Chris. Chris Dyer is a Peruvian-Canadian artist based in Montreal who exhibits, performs, and teaches his art worldwide. Some of his broader artistic themes include consciousness, truth, oneness, introspection, personal development, and kindness. Now, I explained that, or I said that out loud to Chris, and he was like, that's really boring. And I said, I know, that's Wikipedia for you. So let me give you my intro for him. I think it might have been 2010 when Chris and I first started talking. It might have been 2011, but I went up to Montreal to visit him. We connected. A friend, he saw one of my films, or a friend that had seen my films told him to connect with me. I had just seen his documentary, and it was a match made in heaven. I got to go up there. We rode our bikes around Montreal in the cold. I got to see him doing this amazing 3D piece of art that he was working on, and really just got to see him as a human and dive deep. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm really excited to have Chris Dyer on this podcast because, as I said, he's not only doing positive creations, making really beautiful artwork out there, but he's also on a medicine journey. And we're going to dive into all of that here on the Ben Stewart Podcast. Woo!
All right.
Okay. Well, awesome. Everybody, welcome back. We got Chris Dyer in the house. You want to say what's up, Chris?
Hey, how you doing, everybody? How you doing, Ben?
Doing very well, man. Very well.
Hi, Gordon.
Pleasure to be here, brother. Excited for this.
Yeah, man.
Hey.
So, Chris, what year was that? Do you remember? Was it 2010, 2011 that we met?
I'm thinking it was actually a little bit later, like 2015 because it was the year that I was on the outs of my marriage. And the reason why I was in the jungle was to do a dieta and figure out if I should stay married or not. And there I was doing dieta with this Australian dude who's like, dude, you gotta listen to this guy, Ben. He was all about like spirituality and art. So like, oh, that sounds great. So once I got out of there, I listened to a couple of your speeches on YouTube and I hit you up. And right away you're like, okay, I'm coming to Montreal. I was like, holy shit, this guy's gonna come to my house. And you came and you stayed with me and my wife. But as I said, I was already kind of like, we already knew we were going to get divorced. So it's like a little bit of an awkward time for me to have a guest, but it was all good. And I even showed you the apartment that I was about to move into.
Yeah.
And we went into some springtime adventures and yeah, it was fun.
So we went skating at this spot out there. There's and you tagged the piece on this skate spot. What spot was that?
Yeah. It's called the Bego, as in the Olympic Stadium. It's a tunnel that the Olympic torch went through in the 70s, but that the skateboarders have reclaimed and turned it into a skate ramp. And you can paint it. And at one point, it was going to get destroyed to build a new soccer stadium. But this corporation, Saputo, who makes cheese, paid $100,000 to move it a couple feet down the hill to rescue it because it was a historical skateboard spot. So that was a pretty nice story.
Thank you for that corporation and their cheese. All right.
Yeah, and I'm sure no money was washed in that operation. I'm sure it's all legal. No mafia moves at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's no such thing as the mafia. I don't believe that.
I don't know what that is.
So I see a really cool piece behind you. I would love for you to explain for the audience. This is a representation of what Chris does, and he has like a bunch of other types of characters. My favorite being the Galactic Dude. I would take my camera and move it to show you a piece that I have of his over here. I'm just worried that would mess with the framing. But Chris, I would love for you to explain this piece, when you did it, what inspired it, and where you're at.
Yeah, well, I'm, as your viewers might know or not, I'm based in Montreal, Canada. What a nice little label there. Wow. I'm based in Montreal, Canada, but I'm half Peruvian. So I just spent my winters in Peru. And now I'm currently on a multi-month tour of the States to paint murals for anyone who would want one. One of my clients, the present client of this week, is my friend Camila, who I met in Peru. She was one of my students and one of my retreats in the jungle. And she said, like, Chris, come to Austin, Texas, where I'm at right now, and paint me a mural. So she is a Campbell frog medicine practitioner. So I'm here to paint her a mural in honor of her dear toad that brings the healing to herself and her patients. Now, in order to do this mural properly, I had to go and do some Campbell, not once, but 3 times. And it's not an easy thing to do, you know, just one Campbell is like, oh God, this is like not, basically, if you guys know what Campbell is or not, you get these little holes on your skin that are burnt with like a little incense stick kind of thing. And they put the venom of the frog in it. And right away, you start getting this like high pressure fever that just puts your body kind of like in a freak out mode to, I guess a lot of peptides are released or something like that. And you just start throwing up or sweating or purging energetically. It's a big purge. And it gets out a lot of your toxins and also boosts your immune system. So it's the vaccine of the rainforest. Am I allowed to say the word vaccine anymore on YouTube? Or
who knows? But you're doing it, and it's good. It's good.
Yeah,
we're gonna get canceled. No other vaccine but our vaccines, that jungle vaccine. But yeah, it's like for the rainforest people for thousands of years, that's the way they boost their immune system to keep them protected from illnesses. And I just did one in the morning this morning and the last 2 mornings. I also did Sanango, which is when they put those drops into your eyes and it burns the hell out of your eyes, but it like cleanses your eyes, makes your vision better. It also supposed to cleanse your third eye, give you more vivid dreams and inner visions. So yeah, it was a little bit of a cleanse, not psychedelic, but potent for sure. Definitely just opens up your spiritual body more. And yeah, happy to do this mural of the frog, the toad connecting to a patient that's just kind of like bursting in energy, releasing all what shouldn't be in them anymore.
I dig that. I dig, and the look on that frog's eyes, and then sending that laser beam to the third eye of that the human. I dig that, man. And yeah, just for clarity, so like a lot of people they hear like toad, and toad and combo is a frog. The toad is 5-MeO, and so the frog is a tree frog. It's a giant tree frog. And you're right, 3 times in a lunar cycle is an inoculation. And do you want to so because I did that in Mount Shasta, and I did it once, and I'll tell you the one thing that I'm surprised in looking at you, because I didn't know. I saw you posted out on Instagram, and by the way, everyone should go check out at Chris_Dyer, Dyer, on Instagram. And the last image that at least I saw was you getting the dots put on. And everyone that I did it with except me had a swollen face the next day. So I would love, have you had that, or do you just not get the swollen face?
Well, the swollen face happens, I believe, when you lie back. So all the blood starts going to your face and, you know, your lips and your face. But if I stay sitting up and I just kind of like let it pump through my whole body so it doesn't accumulate in any particular part. So I don't get too ugly. I get really white and just like, oh God, please stop, no more.
Did you have to do any hape? Or you were purging just fine?
I purged okay. Like the first 2 ceremonies, I purged a little bit. Today I purged a lot. Today was the grand finale. Yesterday was some kind of like portal opening, so it's a really long and hard one. And today, once they removed the venom off me, that's when I just went really hard, which was great. I love when I puke hard. It's like, okay, I got that thing out, and the work has been completed, and now it can be at peace. And
yeah, you feel accomplished. When you have a good purge, you feel accomplished.
Oh yeah, you've done some hard work. And as for rapé, I only do it like after my body has calmed down and I'm like, okay, I'm fine now. Then I'll do some rapé to kind of like close it down and like, you know, listen to the spiritual vibes of the situation. And yeah.
I dig that. So that piece behind you is a piece that you got commissioned. Somebody. Okay. So one thing that I would really love to get into is kind of the business of what you do and how it is that you stay afloat. There's a lot of people right now in the world that are they're looking at their, I guess, financial state of affairs. They're looking at their job and wondering like how long it's going to be viable, especially if you work for a big corporation. You're wondering like, is this job title going to be taken over one day by machines? And that's the one thing about art, that yes, there are bots that are making music and there are bots that are making art and stuff like that. But at present, it's doesn't even hold a candle to people who really feel the inner calling and the expression of art. And we'll get into that because you've been inspired by several different plant medicines, but probably things outside of plant medicines that are just spiritual or unity type experiences that inform some of your artwork. And I'd love to get into that. But first, take us through a typical year. How do you map out a year? How do you feel confident in how you're going to survive? Where it's going to come from? Is it reactionary? Like, in the moment, somebody's like, hey, I can commission you here down in Jamaica, and you just have to hop on every opportunity. What's it like being the artist of Chris Dyer?
Yeah, well, yeah, sometimes, well, I wouldn't call it reactionary. I do schedule it far in advance,
Okay.
but in my pre-COVID world, people would make me offers, and I'd go and either paint a mural or teach a workshop or do a gallery show, sometimes just a speech. I've been to 40 different countries around the world. I painted in many places. I got also a clothing and accessories brand for the last 16 years. That's fairly, successful. So that also gives me income that helps me pay my mortgage. But COVID was tricky because I had to stop going to festivals to live paint and murals. So this summer I'm just crushing. Basically, I'm in the States and I'm just painting mural after mural after mural to pay my taxes, because Canada has high taxes, and save a little bit for the winter just in case. But I can do graphics. Like when COVID hit and I was trapped in Peru for several months, I had my iPad and I would do graphics for different brands. People still want a logo, a t-shirt design, a pin, etc., poster. So I was doing that. I paint canvases, so sometimes I do shows. I had actually a sold out show in Los Angeles last weekend. So I showed up with a bunch of paintings. People came, they bought the paintings. That was good. The workshops is great. Obviously, I did more workshops before than now. But yeah, I know students come. I teach them art. We do art together. That's a source of income too. So it changes all the time, and I like that. I like that it always switches up, and it's interesting and varied, and not just always the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the mural thing is kind of the same job where I'm spray painting almost every day, but each mural is a total different job. Like right now, I'm doing medicine and expressive medicine. 3 days ago, I was up on a crane painting the big wall of a skate shop. And he wanted something very skater and 80s mixed with toys and action figures, which is totally down my vibe. And so that was totally different. So that was fun, and hang out with him. Like each job has a different client. So that's exciting for me to get to meet them, hang out, and then express their energy through the mural that I have to do. So yeah, there's many different sources.
I dig that, man. And so when we first met, you were talking about some of your visits and some of the workshops that you would do at COSM, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what maybe just like what is that like? And are there other people, other artists out there that are doing the same thing, that have like a type of a venue or some place like what Alex Gray has? Have you seen anything else like that?
Yeah, there's definitely different venues for spirituality and art. Like the first thing comes to mind is Paradise One in Australia, for example. And there's places in Costa Rica and even in Peru. When I was teaching at that healing center, it was not particularly like a place for art, but I turned it into a place of art. And I was teaching my art classes and doing ceremonies. And I've also done that format in India, in Thailand, and Bali. So some people are just like, hey, Chris, do one here. And then I'm like, okay, cool, set it up and I'll go and I'll teach. So it's possible to do this everywhere pretty much.
Yeah. So then you mentioned the pre-COVID world. So the post-COVID world, like, and we're not even post, like the mid-COVID world that we're living in right now. How much has that changed what it is that you do? Like, I know that you were in Peru. We were talking back when you were in Peru, and I think you went to Canada for a brief time and then to the States. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, my parents bought this, they retired, they bought this piece of land, they built a house. And usually I'm just traveling, I'm moving. And I was like, I just want to like chill, like I'm successful enough. I just want to hang out with my family in nature and not have to keep on going. So I went to my parents' place. I was staying with them for 3 months. And just one day before me returning to North America, COVID hit and Peru stopped all of their flights for months. No flights in, no flights out. And so I stayed there an extra 3 months. And it was kind of scary because I was like, man, I'm gonna live in this farm with my parents for the rest of my life. I never saw my fiance ever again. And eventually Canada repatriated me to Montreal. And I was there for a few months, less jobs, but I was just catching up with paintings and my other businesses. And then it started getting cold. And I was like, do I want to spend winter here in Canada by myself in my apartment with all these restrictions? Because Canada has become so mega restrictive. So I just flew back to Peru and I went back to my farm and I just spent winter there. And it's even if it closed down the country or not, I don't feel like this. We got a hectare and we're just kind of like in the sun and enjoying nature. And I'm just painting, which is what I enjoy. So blessings, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah. So being from Peru, most people in the circles I run in, when they think of Peru, they think of very specific things. They think of all the ancient history and the plant medicines. Mm-hmm. And so you were born in Peru, is that correct? Or were you born in Montreal?
I was born in Ottawa. And then at 4 years old, we went to Peru and I grew up there till 17. So I'd say like 17. all my conscious childhood was in Peru. So my upbringing was there and I still consider myself Peruvian.
Did you hear about ayahuasca when you were growing up?
No.
When did you come?
I only heard about it once I was in Canada, and this was like probably like 2003, 2004. Somebody gave me a CD-ROM with Terence McKenna speeches, and then through those speeches, I was like, oh, there's this thing in Peru that sounds very interesting. So I asked my surfer friends, like, do you guys know about shamans? Like, oh yeah, we know about shamans. So I got in touch with one. And every time I would go, my intention was to go and check it out in the rainforest, but I didn't care like that much. It's more like curiosity. And so I'd just get stuck in Lima doing shows or hanging out with my friends. But then eventually in 2013, that shaman came to my art show that I was having, and he played music. And then I ended up going there, and it was a very interesting experience. And at the time, I just thought it was like, okay, wow, I've learned so much from that one thing, and this shit's so deep. And I didn't even know it was that deep. But I thought like, okay, but that's that. I was not even doing many psychedelics at the time. And then I had all that episode with my marriage going down. And I was like, I need something to give me some answers. So I went and I did a full-on dieta and several ceremonies. And there I saw, yes, you got to get divorced. And 2, you got to come here every year and keep on working on yourself through this medicine and recalibrate. It's like you're taking your car to the mechanic. You got to come and bring your car to the mechanic and remember who you really are and remember what you're supposed to be doing. So then I started going every year. And then eventually I started doing retreats there. So it made it easier for me to go there.
I'm curious about your process, Chris. I mean, whenever I see such intricate artwork like yours, is this something that's constantly being developed? How did you initially sort of create your process, and how do you go about it now? Is there a certain method and sort of ceremony? Is it really connecting with the individual? And then could you kind of go into that a little bit?
It changes each time, and it also goes by medium. When it comes to murals are very quick. I just painted like a 3-story building in like 4 days. While a canvas that's a lot smaller will take me like a month or sometimes many months because I go like really meticulous and careful and polished. When it's my canvas for myself, it's me expressing what I'm going through or something that I love, or it's about me. When it's a mural for somebody else, it can be like a mix because the client wants me to do their thing, but still it's through the filter of me. So let's go the example of the big 3-story building mural I did for that skate shop. The guy wanted something skater and to do with action figures. Well, I collect action figures and I've been skating since '86. So I just made like the mega craziest like skater madman entity that came to mind. So I draw it in my sketchbook and then I just have to put it onto a building, and that's more technical, but yeah.
And are you using a combination of like oil, spray paint, or is it always what as far as materials, what do you usually like to gravitate towards?
Well, I've been using uh spray cans,
Okay.
which I believe is some kind of, I don't know. I don't know what the spray paint is of a spray can. I'm guessing some kind of like acrylic
Right.
based painting. As for on my canvases, I usually paint with acrylics, but sometimes I do watercolors, sometimes oils. Sometimes I like to draw. Sometimes I'll get just inks, or sometimes I'll go on my pad and I'll do like digital art. Sometimes I like to collage. Sometimes I like to do a sculpture with pieces of crystals I found, or my cut off dreads, or whatever, broken skateboards. I like to switch it up. I like to
Right.
keep it interesting, because to just
Yeah.
find one thing that works and just do it till death, that doesn't sound like an interesting life.
Yeah. I remember one thing that we were talking about when we met, and I was interviewing you as a writer, like a songwriter, and then like you're writing films and stuff like that. I've had like brief and fleeting moments of writer's block, and I remember I asked you if there's any kind of parallel to that with you, and you're like, no, I never get that. And it always made me interested to follow up on that. Like, what is the process of the art coming through you? How cathartic is it? And if that you can also throw in, like, how did plant medicine start informing what's coming through and ending up on the canvas or the mural or whatever?
Right. I just get a lot of ideas, and because I'm a slow painter, as I said, like if I got an idea, it'll take me a month to paint. Meanwhile, in that month, I'll learn more things, or I'll go through more experiences. There'll be more things I want to paint. So, it stays in the sketchbook, sometimes for years, but hopefully eventually I paint everything. I probably won't be able to paint everything I want before I die, but if I can paint a lot, I'll be happy. As for, what's the second part of the question?
Plant medicine, like, how is that informed? Did it change the way you make art? Did it enhance it? Like,
plant medicine is not like transform me into a new artist. I already had the filter of Chris. I got a style. It was always being psychedelic, even when I wasn't doing psychedelics. I'm just a trippy kid. I grew up in the 80s, and I like all these colorful cultures that might look like they came from drugs, but it's just a cartoon at the end of the day. And then you do different psychedelics and you learn things, and that changes me from the inside. So then what I express might have a little bit more of the flavor or the vibration of that medicine, or the evolution of Chris through that medicine. It's not like I go in there in the ayahuasca space and I take a picture and I come back and I paint it. Sometimes I can remember some things, and if I can paint it, amazing. That's like a record of these things that we see that are quite difficult to capture because they keep on moving, and they're so detailed, and the angles are very three-dimensional. Like when you're in the 3D, when you're in the ayahuasca world, it's not like you see a flat screen with my eyes. It's like I can see all around and behind. It's kind of weird, and I don't know how to put that on a flat canvas sometimes.
Right.
I'd say as the medicine changes me, I express that through the filter of Chris, but then new ingredients come through, new languages, maybe new color combinations. It's subtle. Sometimes when I'm in there and be like, wow, this would be amazing painting. And I was like, shh, don't think about work right now. Don't think about the next painting. That's human, mundane stuff. Just let's keep on working. Let's keep on polishing you. And don't worry, I will come from behind and help you make new paintings.
Yeah. So part of the reason I ask is because almost all of the stuff that you create it has this positive twist to it. It looks very fun. Everything from the galactic dude to that frog behind you. Yet there are a couple ones, and I don't know the name of it, but that one where that almost like demon is purging, and it's darker colors. And I'll see if I can find, what's the name of that one?
It's called shadow work.
Shadow work. We'll see if we can find that one.
Yeah, I can check.
The reason I ask though is because like that also shows that it's not just, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like a gimmick. You have your style, you don't stray from your style, you just do that. It's one thing, and it slightly evolves depending on the medium. Like you do have like these right there, so as everyone's seeing, that's one of the first ones I saw where I didn't at first acknowledge it as your work. And so could you explain a little bit about what's going on in this image?
Well, when I do a painting, I have to come from an energy, from an experience, from something that I'm trying to get from my insides to my outsides. This painting happened during depression I was going through. I was living in Vienna at the time, in Austria. I was teaching a 5-week workshop at a visionary art academy. And I had just broken up with my girlfriend. I was very bummed out about it. And Vienna was like a dark, cold, rainy city with unfriendly people. And I wasn't even getting along with my students so much, which was rare. And I just had to dance with my shadow. And I painted something that's a little bit more of my roots, if anything, because when I started doing art, it was all more punk, heavy metal kind of art. And then as I let that negativity go, then my art started becoming more positive. And when I paint positive, it's not like that I don't acknowledge the negativity. The world is full of negativity. We're flooded in it. If anything, the code of the mainstream is always like pumping out the negativity, so we can think that the world's negative, and then we vibrate that and we keep on manifesting that. So it's unbalanced. I rather change the code. I rather say like, hey, there's a positive to everything too. Even when you're going through your shit, that's a positive thing. So in that image of the shadow work, he's still holding a crystal, being like, you will dance with me, you will get hurt, but we're gonna purge, and you will get a reward from it. There's a goal to it. It's not meaningless. It's not just pure pain for no reason. There's a purpose, and here you will get your gift through learning through the dark side. So yeah, I honor the darkness and the negativity and the sad and depressive times as much as the good and happy times, as much as I enjoy the latter more.
For sure. Yeah, man. And I really do appreciate that, because you're right. And, being somebody who just, not even, 7 months ago, started up a news channel, took me a while to even navigate what it was I was trying to do with it. And really, I knew that news had to change. I knew from the start, because I wasn't able to put it into the words that I am now when I first started. And I wasn't able to then really hit the nail on the head. But when you look at the news specifically, most news is really pointing out how to identify what's wrong with the world, who is the perpetrator, and the victim is obvious. It's always you, the watcher. The watcher is always the victim of whatever's going on. And whoever's head's on the chopping block today is the perpetrator that is trying to disadvantage you, the freedom-loving American, or wherever you are, And so for me, I kind of felt, well, this has to change, and there has to be medicine in more than just. So I believe you bring medicine to art. I believe Nako, Xavier Rudd, Trevor Hall, Peya, these are all people who bring medicine into music. And I felt like, why couldn't you bring medicine into any and all formats? And so what I was then realizing was then, like, you have to acknowledge in medicine, because all the medicine that I've ever done, the first thing that it will do is it'll show you your hangups. It'll show you your blind spots. It'll show you your darkness and your shadow, and you'll have to confront it. And then it'll also show you where it emanates from, you, who made the decisions that led to where this is, you, and who has the power to unravel all of that, you. And so to me, that's kind of been where I really appreciate that you put that in your art, because I think that is what medicine is, not denying that negative side of it. And, like the new age wet dream that we can all just, pretend or visualize the world as being the way we would prefer it to be, which is always towards pleasure and away from pain, rather than seeing that both are dual sides of the same coin, and that when engaged with truthfully, openly, can lead to healing. And so I really appreciate what you just said right there. And really, it kind of brings me to a topic that I wasn't really sure if I wanted to get into or not, but because even before this whole thing went down, you and I remember we talked about this a lot, because you and I had gone to the same medicine man down in Peru. And the first time we met, I went up to your place, and I remember, like, I saw Herbert Quinteros on a painting that you had made, and you didn't explain anything. I just saw it, and I said, wait, is that Herbert? And you're like, yeah. And you're like, that's the guy that I did ayahuasca with. And I was like, I was just down in Tarapoto doing ayahuasca with Herbert. And this is what reminds me, you're right, it wasn't 2010, because I didn't do that trip until 2013. So I visited you around 2014, 2015, and we talked about that. And I just remember this was a very beautiful connection that you and I both had. And then so many years later, this brings us all the way up to 2021, where we're at now. How to launch into this event happened that ended up hitting your social media, and obviously his social media. We're still not even fully out of it. It's kind of something that was truly inflamed for a while. And I remember that we talked about it when you interviewed me in this room on my podcast. And I would really like to, I guess, bring this up not as just some spicy news to talk about, but also to kind of show the world of medicine, and also the world of social media, and how people talk, and how stories and news gets around, and where is the medicine in community here. So I guess the actual question is, could you tell us a little bit about, and whatever you're comfortable with mentioning, about basically the retreat, I guess, because for the audience to know, you would bring people down to Peru to experience the medicine, and these would be coupled with art workshops. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And so in one of these art workshops, it then led to an event that just kind of blew up. And I don't want to, we don't have to be pointing names or anything like that. I know I already mentioned one, but like, if you could just kind of like express what had happened there, because I want to tease out where the beauty and maybe the opportunity of these kinds of situations might come, even though they seem pretty dark.
Right. Just to start with, nothing happened at my retreat.
Okay.
These retreats, I have been doing them for 7 years, and I've had probably like 50 different students. And at each one of these retreats, I saw nothing but people coming in sick and people leaving elevated, with purpose, healed, empowered, and their lives changed in positive ways in every single chance. I never saw somebody leave being all like, well, that sucked. It was always positive. It was mostly an art retreat where we're painting all day long, and then we would do 3 different ayahuasca ceremonies at night. Now, the event you're talking about was a student who, months after my retreat, was talking with the shaman, or the shaman was talking with her, and she kept on talking with him, and it was all kind of sexy, sexual stuff. And then it ended up in a Zoom call where he asked her to masturbate, and she did. That had nothing to do with my retreat. It was just 2 people who met at my retreat. And then the news was brought to me at a very sensitive time, because I had just left a 2-week retreat myself, and I was in Cusco doing a 3rd week of plant medicine. So I was still sensitive from ayahuasca, and we were about to do a couple Wachuma ceremonies with 4 different women that I was taking care of. And this news kind of like hit me like a, pretty hard. I wish she would have waited till I was concluded with that, because it was almost like I'm in the operating table and then you just drop a rock on my open guts. And I was like, whoa. And, I didn't know how to handle it. And my mistake was, in these days and age, when somebody tells you that a man, or especially a healer, has that any kind of sexual abuse or taking advantage of their power in any way, the response you have to have is like, yeah, go and do whatever you have to do. Not that I said like, don't do it, but I was like freaked out. I was like, oh my God, you're going to tell the whole world now this thing, and it freaked me out and scared me. And I was mind fucked to learn that the healer who had become one of my best friends, who I was making paintings of, who I had on my podcast, who I was celebrating, it was very like hard to understand that he was actually doing these bad sexual things behind my back. I never saw in all the years that he was doing it, and it was hard news. And I just needed time to first understand what was going on, give a chance to the other party to talk, have more conversations, and then have conversations with other women and shamanic elders to see like, okay, so what's the solution to this? Is there some kind of like shamanic council or police that revokes his shamanic license? Or how do we stop this from happening? How do we heal this person who is sick, who has hurt a woman? Of course, we also like want the woman to heal. Like that's, a no-brainer, as goes without saying. We want you don't want any woman to be hurt in any single way, and we want to be there to help them. But I was also like, okay, how do we also heal this friend of mine who's helped me so much all my life, and make sure he never does that anymore? She didn't really like my response. She just wanted straight up like me to be on board with like the punish train. So she stopped talking with me, and then she went public about not only the news about Herbert, but then that I was trying to silence her and shut her down, which wasn't the case. I just needed more time before it was a public thing. I was, once again, very sensitive and didn't have the chance to have a proper conversation with her because I was taking care of these 4 different women in Cusco while we're doing medicine. I needed more time. And because of that, she told the world that I was, that Herbert had done those things, and that made it kind of sound like I was backing him up. So people are like, oh, the news got exaggerated then on social media, where people thought that a woman had gotten raped at my retreat, which wasn't true, and that I was trying to like cover it up so I could keep on doing the retreats and helping the shaman do all these shifty things. All not true. Like, if I would have known, I would have not permitted any of that. Like, my whole intention of having people come to my retreats, it was for them to get healed and to make the world a better place, not to hurt anybody, especially a woman. But anyways, the internet went nuts on me. And when I tried to explain myself kind of the way I'm explaining myself here, it was too clumsy and too politically incorrect. And I was too much talking about like, can we also like just help heal this, corrupted man that has a sickness? And this world is very much like, either you're on one side or with the other side. There's no having compassion for both sides. If you have compassion for both sides, it's almost like you're against the woman, which was a weird perspective some people had. And yeah, then the whole internet wanted to like punish me and cancel me. And I went through some really hellish times after that. A lot of my business got ruined and etc. It doesn't matter what happened to me. I just suffered a lot. And having that news happen at a time that I was going through my own medicine process, which also had to do with my own sexual traumas that I was looking into my, data bank of my teen years. It was just like a really hard experience all in all. Now, what's the medicine that can come out from this terrible experience? Well, it is good that it became public and that we're aware that shamans are doing this harm to the people who they should be helping, so that we can stop that from happening. So that's good all in all. I wish, once again, there was some kind of like shamanic council or webpage that revokes kind of like a shamanic license if somebody misbehaves, and then some rehabilitation that takes a certain period of time, where they can heal, or maybe just revoke forever. I don't know. I don't have the answers, but definitely there's a discussion there. This whole thing of like, he did something wrong and let's throw him in the garbage and that human's done. Like, well, he's only in his early 40s. Like, does the rest of his life it's done? Or can we, like people who go to jail, you go to jail, are you supposed to come out like as better persons to become good, or are you just going to punish a person, destroy their souls, and then forever their life is ruined? I don't know, like if maybe punishment works. I don't know. These are big questions, but there's definitely a discussion there. And when sometimes you want to have the discussion, people are just like, no, it's, perpetrator, victim, punishment, and punish it. And I just like to see if there's any room for understanding, compassion, forgiveness, the things that the medicine's been teaching me. At the time when this news came, I asked the medicine, like, God, what do I do? Do I just throw my friend in the garbage who's been helping and healing me and all my tribe all these years? Do I give him a chance? It's like, and what came to me is like, well, now it's your turn to like try to help him find some healing. Now it's your chance to heal his imbalance. But the world just doesn't, the world's not there yet. They're to, as I said, taking a side. But anyways, I'm just rambling now, but that's kind of like a gist of it. And I'm just coming out of it, trying to move forward with my life. I didn't actually do anything wrong other than being like in the wrong situation. Actually, had nothing to do with none of that. And I've learned lots of lessons. I've had a million conversations with different women. I've learned a lot about sexual abuse, and I'll have more sensitivity about it in the future. I'd love to think that we've all learned about ourselves and reflection of each other in this situation, that we can become better humans from it.
I think you could bring up a really good point about an idea of like a council of shamans. Something that kind of ties into this that I think is really important that's happening with the legalization of psychedelics more federally, and more states are stepping up, is you're going to be able to have more quality control. You're going to be able to have more ways to have people not experience this type of thing, because it'll be more legitimate. Just like a restaurant serves bad food, you get a bad food score, or you have uncleanliness. I think this is the power and the importance of legalization of psychedelics. It allows more quality control with the dosage amount in a certain setting. You have really certified great practitioners giving the medicine to the patients. But this is something that if we could really lead the charge on and do really well as a country, I don't see why other countries wouldn't want to adopt similar things as well, whether it's South America, anywhere ultimately.
Right. Or maybe just locally, because what are the regulations of a shaman in Siberia compared to the shaman in Peru? A different culture, different medicines, etc. And to be totally honest, Herbert was a great shaman and great musician. Like, he was very good at that service. That's why I felt it was such a bummer that we would have to lose this good healer, But once this news came out, it seems like there was a lot of other things he had done in the past. And, he had the chance to turn it around. He had a chance to stop doing these things, and he didn't. So I don't know, like at this point, it's not up to me to say who deserves to go through what experiences, but you make your bed and you lay on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I still feel bad and compassion and even forgiveness for him, but I can't really be the one to rescue him neither. Just wish him the best in his process of healing and purging those parts of himself that are not his highest godly self. But yeah, always going back to love and hoping that we can. But back to the whole council talk, even if it was like a thank you plant medicine data bank of shamans, and then if they did something in Bali or in Thailand, then they get that bad scores.
You get a bad Yelp review. I mean, whatever. I mean, we have systems. So.
But then the other question is like, well, what if somebody leaves you a bad Yelp review for the wrong reasons? Because sometimes people just rub each other wrong, and you can say anything. So it's a really complicated topic, and I definitely don't have the answers, but definitely there should be more discussion. And, we should all talk like we're talking right now, without fear that I'm going to say something wrong and be like, Chris still believes this and that, so let's destroy him. It's like, come on, let's just talk like, kind human beings and find solutions.
And podcasts allow for nuance to have, right? Because it allows you a long form conversation to explain all the nuance and the context of the situation. And if things are just a tweet or a 50 character or less Facebook post, there's a lot of that going on right now. And that's, I think, why social media is rubbing a lot of people the wrong ways, because it's making conversations very short-sighted, very absolute, and not leaving a lot of room for gray. And nobody's perfect. No human being is perfect. We're all flawed, but we got to have a conversation. We got to be able to agree with people we disagree with. And psychedelics, bring this all back to the fold here. Those are something, even if you don't do psychedelics, something that I've always gleaned from them, and I think most people do, is they allow for you to look at yourself very honestly. I mean, there's nothing else that's going to make you really look at yourself honestly. And I think a lot of people, they don't want to look at themselves honestly. I mean, you don't want to admit that you have parts of you that you don't like, but...
Something that kind of bummed me out about that situation is that people would then not only throw the shaman in the garbage, but also plant names. It's like, people going to the jungle and doing these drugs, and they're going crazy. Look at just like Chris, how he's all crazy from doing all these drugs.
Yeah.
As opposed to understanding that there's a process, and may we resonate or not on our political view, we're just doing our work.
And this goes back to the 70s, where you hear about one person who completely abused acid and then jumped off a building or did something very reckless, and then they immediately can demonize the entire plant medicine or anything associated with it. You're guilty. And that's where a lot of the research got shut down, honestly. You start the war on drugs, you start immediately classifying these things as Schedule 1, and doctors and scientists and people in academia aren't able to really research it. And so it's beautiful that we are sort of, we have a whole series going through this sort of psychedelic renaissance. You're seeing Imperial College of London, you're seeing Rick Doblin, you're seeing these amazing people who are very credible step up to now help us finally have this conversation the right way. But Ben, go ahead if you want to.
Well, you know what? I mean, Chris, thank you. Thank you for being so candid and speaking about that. These are topics that I feel they need to be spoken about more. And, mind you, it's not like it doesn't dawn on me that we are three guys, especially three white guys, talking about sexual abuse. But the power in that is the fact that, first and foremost, the statement I'm going to make is I believe that there is an archetypal healing that needs to take place. And it has to do with the archetypal masculine and the power over and the overpowering of the archetypal feminine. And the reason I say that is I've felt this for years, that there is a wound there, there's a trauma there, and that these individual one-off instances, they come in waves. And when they come in waves, they also come when they're at the bottom of the wave, right? But when they come in waves, it seems like there's something culturally that wants to be expressed and spoken about. And that's what again, I don't want to go through the litany of all the trauma that's happened out there. But so I had met Nako. I stayed at his house with my wife. She was pregnant with twins. We had our then 3-year-old daughter there. He was the most amazing host. Everything about him was great. And he had somebody there with him, Maklapua, and that was his girlfriend. And they were an amazing couple. We went to see Dennis McKenna together. We jammed out that night by the fire with Dennis and a couple other just great people. Everything was incredible. And then a few months later, everything kind of fell, to shit with him, because word got out that he had been with other women, and that he, without going off on stuff that I had only loosely read, that there was also some other trauma, maybe like not bad violence, but something that was just a little bit more harsh than we would like to see a man against a woman in the public setting. And the first thing that I noticed when this got to the public was the cancel culture was alive in people's hearts. Before people even had the term cancel culture out in the open about like YouTube and Facebook and all the social media, there was just this instantaneous, I saw people that I personally had seen comment on previous posts of Nako's saying like, I love you, we've been listening to you forever, say the exact opposite. Like, I never liked your music. And they just threw this guy who probably got them through a lot of difficult times, threw him into the garbage. And then, you know, like, this is from my perspective. So there's a lot that could be wrong with this. But from my perspective, there was this guy who made a bunch of music that helped people go through healing processes without having to take medicine. They would listen to music and it would help them feel okay with not having to be perfect. It helped people surrender to who they really are and feel inspiration for who they really are. And then at the slightest bit, and okay, what he did was not slight, but this event, and then people bring down the hammer and nobody's talking. Well, I can't say nobody. There were a few, but it was a small fraction of people saying, how can we help you, Nako? How can we help you heal? Obviously, there's some healing that needs to be had. And so I really appreciate that when you say that, Chris, about Herbert, there seems to be this fear. And I really do feel the fear from especially men in the culture that are like, ooh, if I don't immediately hop on this cancel culture bandwagon and throw the person away, if I say anything less than that, then it's going to be thrown back on me. And that's where I see a lot of people not using their voice for what they truly feel inside. And I felt that with Herbert. I felt like, man, this guy has got to account for what he's done. But that doesn't mean he, you know, doesn't deserve healing. Same with Nako. He has to account for what he's done, but that doesn't mean he doesn't deserve healing. And there's this story of this, and I've tried to locate the actual African tribe, but where, you know, in this tribe, when a woman wants to become pregnant, a song comes to them and they sing this song. And so they have their mate. And as they get pregnant, they sing this song all the way through the pregnancy. They sing it to the child while they're breastfeeding. They sing it for a while. And then if that child grows up 15, 20 years later, and let's say beats another child in the tribe half to death, instead of reprimanding this child and throwing him in a cell and doing these things that look an awful lot like punishment, they gather around the child. They isolate and incubate the child, not isolate from people, but they come around the child and they sing that song to remind the child of that thing that they've been hearing since before they were even conceived. And so this is just a story, but it's this alternative idea of what we can do when we see pain and we want to speak about it. Instead of being like, okay, who was harmed? Let's love them and hate everybody else involved. That really is going to lead to exactly what we have with our rehabilitation centers, right? The prison industrial complex, where we call it rehabilitation and we lock people away in sometimes okay scenarios and sometimes dreadful situations. So I guess the main thing that I'm talking about here is there is something that needs to be pinpointed here, and there is something that needs to be healed here. And what I would caution most people out there who listen to something like this and they feel worried about using their voice, yes, use your voice cautiously. And yes, try not to inflame certain situations, and know when your voice is welcome and when it's not welcome. This is just regular discourse. But I definitely think we need to look at this in a way of where is the opportunity in this crisis? And I think the opportunity in this crisis is we need to actually start addressing this stuff more, but differently, because we're addressing it now like cancel culture. Throw the person away. We don't need that person anymore. And if you were to take everyone's skeletons out of everyone's closet, we're not going to have any humans left, you know, except for little children, right?
Yeah.
Little
Correct.
children that haven't had the chance to get conditioned by society enough for them to fall into the same traps. So there needs to be a different mechanism in place. And I would really like to see that. And it must start, to me, it must start with the masculine, because there is a deep, deep, deep feminine wound inflicted by the masculine. I'm not saying man on woman, I'm saying masculine on feminine. And I think the perfect place to start is the medicine community, because we hear about these stories a lot. We hear about the healers using that power in negative ways, but we don't draw the one-to-one correlation. Like, well, what about people on Wall Street that do the same exact thing? Or, you know, what about Tommy Lee that was doing the same thing as Nako? But everyone's like, oh yeah, but that was rock. That was 80s, right? Nako is a medicine singer, so it's different. Well, we're all human, so it's not different. Healing needs to be had for those who are broken, and most of us in society are broken. So the bottom line is, like, you know, and I know that was a huge tangent, but what I want to say is, for one, thank you, Chris, for showing that you don't have it all figured out, showing humility, because I think that's the first part of the medicine that the world needs, is the humility to say, like, listen, yeah, you know, I probably could have handled it better, but I didn't. I'm human. And, you know, we all need this healing. So the first thing I want to say to you is, man to man, Chris, you are forgiven for whatever, you know, others may, or you may feel holds guilt over you. You are forgiven and you are loved. And thank you for even bringing that up, because I know it wasn't easy, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm just grateful for the experience, because I learned a lot from it, and I hope that a lot of medicine came through it. Through my process, as much as I might have shot the bed or whatever, you know, I was always honest. And when I realized where I went wrong, I apologized publicly. And then a month later, after quitting, I stopped going online for like a whole month, and I just kind of like sat and read all these thousands of mails that people were writing to me, and audios, etc., and having a million conversations. After that, I started talking again, and these are the things that I learned, and you know, this is how I want to move forward, because I know I'm a good person inside in the end, and nobody's perfect. And as you said, like, we've all got skeletons in our closet or done something bad, and what, should we all be discarded forever, or should we learn from that and move forward? So I think there's a lot of medicine that comes through these experiences, and I'm happy that I can keep on living my life, serving my art and my heart to the best of my intentions. And I'll probably make more mistakes in the future, and I hope people have forgiveness for me, as I will have forgiveness for anyone else who's made a mistake in their life. So yeah, I don't know. That's my attitude, at least.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man.
I would love to show a little bit. Speaking of your art, I'd love to show a little bit more. We have a cool animation queued up if you guys want to comment on some of the other artwork here.
Yeah, let's definitely see it.
All right. Now we'll get the music so you guys are able to hear it.
Yeah, this is an animation that an animator named Sip made of my work, of different pieces of paintings.
That's your mother and your father right there.
Yeah, that painting's about healing the inner child. I made that in 2007, and it was a big painting where my mom and my dad and my wife at the time are healing the broken inner child.
Beautiful.
The dragonfly. This is a really cool animation. Yeah, I really like it. I'm working with this animator now to make my first NFTs.
Okay. That'll be my next question, man. NFTs, because I just visited Alex Gray, and he just put up his work on NFTs as well.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did well with it.
Boom. Third eye drops. Is that how you feel on Sananga?
No, Sananga is more like somebody put pepper juice in my eyes and I'm just burning. But maybe like where I do get visions is when you do Sananga and then you do ayahuasca. There you see a lot, almost too much. You're like, okay, please somebody stop this. It's just I want to go to bed now.
Oh wow.
Have you done it then?
Sananga, yes, but not paired with Aya.
Okay.
Yeah, I call them holy shit drops. Yeah.
Not fun. And I did it 3 days in a row.
Oh damn.
What my practitioner was telling me is like to try to find the pleasure in pain because it's like a thin line. So today actually it didn't burn as much, and not that I found pleasure in it, but it was a little bit less intense. So I don't know. There's always interesting observations of those two. It's kind of like when you get a tattoo and like it hurts a lot at the beginning, but then at some points it actually becomes somewhat pleasurable. I guess
yeah, the endorphins. For sure. People don't get addicted to tattoos for no reason. This is really cool. How long is this animation?
It's about 4 minutes.
Yeah. Kind of long, but we can keep on talking as
yeah. Let's just let people watch it for sure. Well, in the meantime, you know, there's Chris, your wavy face with the dreads that you have no more, and the NFT space. We were talking the very beginning about like, you know, what's the business like for being an artist that travels and doing what you do. And we didn't even get into the fact that you earlier on you were doing your skateboard company, Positive Creations. But I would love to know like your thoughts on the NFT space and like getting into that. Have you done anything with that yet? Have you seen it done successfully?
Well, I've been observing it.
Maybe explain NFT real quick.
Well, I guess NFT is kind of like art turned into cryptocurrency, where somebody buys either a limited. It's kind of like a electronic print. Limited editions, like, oh, there's only 10 prints and it's signed and numbered, but the signature and the number is some kind of like computer, I don't know, code or something that makes sure that it's very unique and only you have it. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it and what, you know, but it's something new. I'm not going to be like, oh, I don't vibe with that because it's too modern and I'm going to just stay in the past. I'll, you know, see how I can go about it, because ideally as an artist we would just want to become like abundant enough so I can just paint whatever the fuck I want. I don't have to think about like clients and making money. Like right now I'm on a tour and it's fun. It's good to be traveling and meet people and do this tour and bring like paintings to a lot of people that makes them happy. But my ideal scenario is just to be in my studio and paint canvases for myself. And for that, I need to be able to afford my mortgage and all the other million bills that we get hit, taxes in our society. So for that, it's always good to see where you can get some passive income, maybe my clothing brand or skateboards or maybe cryptocurrency. You know, you buy some Bitcoin or Ethereum and then that grows and then you're taken care of financially. And maybe this NFT thing, if it actually works out and grows with time as the world becomes more futuristic and virtual, then, you know, maybe I can just paint whatever I want and not have to run around painting murals. I'm already in my 40s. This shit's exhausting. My knees hurt.
Well, it's true, man. I mean, so we're definitely moving into that virtual world. There's this thing called the spatial web on the way where you don't even have to leave your bedroom. You can have augmented, glasses on, and you need to go to a store and you don't want to do the traditional laptop, you know, or on your phone shopping. You can literally put on the goggles and select what you want. It's more interactive. They're doing the same thing with Like, why go to Yellowstone with all the dirt and the animals and the driving when you could just put on these goggles,
I don't get it.
and go to Yellowstone in the spatial web.
Ready Player One.
Well, I personally hope that the world doesn't become a VR world like in Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, it's definitely going to. I'm kidding. I have a lot of hope for that.
in this parallel reality, perhaps, but I hope that we make the shift once the aliens arrive. I hope that it shifts, that we like go back to like a more shanty way of living and don't have to live it through the computer. But you know,
But computers are here. Like, you're definitely right.
Right. There'll be more people getting into the virtual space, and who knows, maybe if there's another virus coming at us and there's more lockdowns, people are just going to be like, well, I still want to go out and party, so maybe I'll use the virtual goggles, or maybe I'll go and hang out at my friend's place, and whoa, what's on his wall? Is that an original Chris Dyer virtual painting? Holy shit, man, now you're really showing your bling at me.
It came out right after the Walmart variant.
Right.
If you can wrap your head around that.
People are spending some big bucks on NFTs, so
yeah.
I mean, it's not. I mean, there's some promise for sure.
NFTs. So for the audience, non-fungible tokens. You got artists like Kings of Leon doing concerts, and like I said, Alex Gray was talking about putting his stuff. He's just recently done it since I met him, which was just back in February, I think.
Yeah, he had a successful launch. I think he made like, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's good for Cosm. So he can build a chapel and show his original art pieces once it's open.
Yeah.
For his, a good friend of mine commissioned his very last piece that Tool used for Fear Inoculum, and it's called The Great Turn. DM Turner is the guy.
Nice.
Yeah, is the drawn guy, not the guy who commissioned it. But the guy who commissioned it is a good friend of mine, Jason. And he brought me up there, and that was the first time that I even heard of NFTs. And the thing that I had heard about it is every time the art changes hands, if there's only like one of a kind or something like that, a cut always goes back to the original artist, which is,
right. That's cool. That's super cool, because sometimes they'll sell a painting and then they'll flip it, and I'm not making anything from that. So with NFTs you are. So
right.
Cool.
And there's a lot of people who are like, keep your surveillance and your tracking away from me. And sometimes there's an example of where it can actually work out for the advantage of the artist. And there's many ways of looking at it, but I do feel that I was talking with somebody, I forget, it was after a talk that I gave. Actually, I think it was after I started the news channel. Somebody hit me up from Australia and said, Ben, I hear you talking a lot about technology, and I think you're absolutely right. He was like, I got this, and he worked in the tech space. He was like, I got this download. And, usually people in the tech space, when they're talking to download, they literally mean like a digital download. But this is one he was talking about. He got this download where he was like, technology, it's like a spice. You only need a little bit of it, and more of it will ruin the entire recipe. It'll ruin the whole meal. But in the right dose, technology vastly enhances what it is we're trying to do. And I think right now we're on this crescendo where technology is just like all day long. Okay, all the movies are even showing it too. You go on a bus, what's everyone doing? You're out on a street corner, what's everyone doing? You're at a concert, what's everyone doing? They're like, waving their phone around, filming and everything like that. And you have a whole flood of people saying like, this is the downfall of humanity, is like we're going to lose all of our human potential to this technology. And I think like, no, we're definitely atrophying some of these things, like, learning directions to places, remembering phone numbers, doing math in our head. But I think that there is a balancing point to this. And I'm kind of curious about like the future of this and where it does go, and the balance of how technology will sit on top of fields like art. And I think, the NFT space is just the beginning, because I don't think we've really scratched even the surface of what blockchain technology is going to do. When people hear blockchain, they're like, oh, cryptocurrency? And like, yeah, it's the underlying technology of it. And eventually, I think it's going to radically transform economy. It's going to transform many sectors. And hopefully...
if it doesn't get hijacked first.
Yeah.
Well, in a sense, it was hijacked before it became this thing that everyone's saying, oh, crypto and blockchain is going to be our savior. It was already hijacked by then, but not completely, not 100%. Because the idea is the most dangerous thing to administrations that want to hold all their power. It's the idea behind it. And now that people have this idea of, well, there's centralized and then there's decentralized and then there's distributed. And what are these concepts? How can we apply them out? What is open source? You know, the open source software where like literally it's free to you and you can tweak it. And, you know, it's like the base technology and let somebody else enhance it. Don't hide the schematics behind it. Don't hoard it. Let the world make it better. So that concept is going to eventually grow. I don't know at what rate, but it's already been hijacked, but that doesn't mean it's game over. I kind of feel like we're still dealing with the same stuff that we've been dealing with in the past. And by the way, the Federal Reserve, the whole rah behind the Federal Reserve was we're going to decentralize banking. That was the whole thing back then, was decentralized banking, because it's not the government anymore. Don't worry. It's this private organization.
Yeah.
And what? We still have problems with that. So I think humans can find a way to screw up anything, as well as find a way to glorify and turn something like a technology beautiful. And we're seeing all of it at the same time. And it's just what we put our focus and attention on. So I don't want to go super down that rabbit hole. What I do want to mention is, where do you see the future of Chris Dyer's art and the way that you express it? Are you going to dive deeper into, let's say, more animations, the computer space, the digital space? Where do you see it? I know you said you want to stay in your studio and paint and give your knees a rest and not travel so much, but where are you considering moving deeper into as a form of artistic expression?
Well, first I'm going to get one of those brand new fancy brain implants. And then I'm going to get myself some bionic knees and the ability. I'm going to program myself to be an amazing skateboarder and an amazing painter. I'll let the computer hand do it for me, since the computer's better than me. I'm going to give you some reflections of something you said before about computers making art and music. Yes, maybe the computer can figure out the code to make a melody or a song that makes sense, or make a painting that looks like there were brush strokes and it paints the bowl of fruit or the portrait of somebody. But for me, what makes art is the fucking soul and the feeling and the human essence and the imperfections of the human that's then filtering in onto a canvas, into something physical. So I don't think the computer will ever be able to replace that human essence that's expressed through music and arts and the general arts. As for NFTs and cryptocurrency and all that stuff, I do hope that we can use these things to empower normal people. It seems like a lot of people believe that through cryptocurrencies, we can move away from the central power of the banks and the corporations, and hopefully normal people like you and me can buy some random coin and it can blow up, and then also we're empowered financially. That's happened, and those people then are the ones who are buying NFTs and giving money to artists who are making their digital artwork available. So it seems like that kind of power is getting around. So it's already doing some good, and let's hope it keeps on moving that way. Though it seems right now they want to kind of like cock block it. For example, I wanted to keep on buying more crypto now that was down, and my Canadian bank's like, nope, we don't allow you to use a credit card to buy it anymore. It's too risky. And I'm like, dude, you're going to tell me what to spend my money on. If it's risky, that's on me. I'm the one losing it, not you. So already there's the system being all like, oh, no, don't let the people get too much power. So we'll block any potential. So let's hope that the empire doesn't win and that us, the rebels, can get the power back. Actually, not next week, but in like a couple of weeks, I'm going to go to Oregon, and we're going to make our own currency made out of glass. So basically, we're going to make these positive creations coins. It starts like a plate. It's like a giant glass Chris Dyer coin art piece. And then you melt it, stretch it, and then you chop it up into little coins. And then you sell it for like $150, like as a mini art piece. But right there, that glass coin starts as a $150, coin. And then as it keeps on moving in time, it might gain value. Maybe we'll tie it into some crypto. So if the Federal Reserve or the powers that be can make up money out of thin air, why us people can't create our own currency and value and empower ourselves? I think that's a positive and a good thing. Now, as to respond your question of where am I going in the future? I don't know, man. I'm staying in the present. I'm painting murals. Maybe once I get back home to Montreal in August and I pay my taxes, I can paint some canvases. I don't have to go more technological, but if I do, I'll let the animators do that job for me. And then we can see. I'm very much into collaboration and those who have particular skills, technological skills, to use that in collaboration with the shit that I'm very analog. I want paint on a broken piece of wood. I want, spray paint and street art is very dirty, and you paint it in the back alley many times, and it's just, it smells, and I like that. I'm very old school in that way, so I want to keep it old school. I want to keep it the essence, but I'm not afraid of moving to the future and collaborating with other technological people to see where we go together.
That sounds
collaborate
like
with aliens.
Yeah,
I'll talk to my friends and see if they want to collab with you. Yeah.
Nice.
What I like about what you're saying, man, is it's really merging the old with the new, which I think is one of the most like fundamental essences of life. Is health comes from remembering who we are and where we came from, while having a clear, at least intention and vision of the path ahead, while being rooted firmly in the present. And so for you see the thing that made art from the past viable, and those little things that, like, art that smells because it was painted in the back alley wasn't the original intention of it. It was a byproduct of it that became a sentimental, nostalgic piece of it, and remembering where that comes from. Whereas like the digital art, you're only going to smell your computer screen if you try and scratch it and sniff it. So like what I like about it is you're willing to move into the future. You're holding on to what you love about the past. And you even said it yourself, like, I'm just kind of, I'm just kind of here right now. I'm doing my thing, I'm moving on my art. And I just have to say, I want to reiterate what I said in the beginning. Terrence McKenna said this, I forget what talk it was, but it was towards the end of his life when he was giving this awesome speech, and somebody said, so what's the solution? Like, what's the solution to all this? Because he was talking about like the nonsense of the collective mind. And he was like, I think art, and people just started cheering before he even finished his sentence. He was like, I think art, if we push the art pedal to the metal, then we will do, and now I'm paraphrasing heavily, we will do what we were meant to do no matter what the challenge outside is, and that's express what it means to us. So when it comes to what we were talking about, earlier, about the masculine wound inflicted upon the feminine, if we're talking about anything that's going on in the world that the world is experiencing right now, the reason why I tell people, I think we all need healing. We all need healing. But one of the best ways to get in touch with and allow for it to start happening without us needing to go to a healer or to go somewhere is to just use our voice and to really, really express what does what we are hearing and feeling from the world make us want to say and sing. And that to me is why I really appreciate artist because it's not coming literally through the voice unless you're a singer or a speaker, but you're using symbols, you're using these things that are interpretive in order to put somebody in a space. That's medicine. That to me is medicine and always has been. So man, you know, I really appreciate just the continued relationship that we've had, the work and the path that you're still on, man. I really love the fact that, you know, now we got more mutual friends and we seem to bump into one another more often. And I would love for you to give the audience an opportunity to find you, to find where you're going to be, and to reach out to you if there's, if there's a calling for somebody to reach out to you, to commission a piece, to collaborate, whatever it might be. How can people touch base?
Right. First, I'm going to reflect, bounce back on the things that you said. Yeah, art is definitely has the potential to be medicine for the people. Art and music, of course. Music almost seems more potent because you got lyrics to spell it out. But these days, it's not like we're all listening to the same music like in the 60s where we're all listening to the same pop songs. Now, everybody's got their own style of music and it's just very divided. With art, it also, you got to have a taste and a flavor. And I know psychedelic art's not for everybody, but it transcends language because there's no language, like my art's not in English or in Spanish or in Japanese. And you can look at it and see themselves in their own reflection and through that learn about themselves or what it means. When it comes to psychedelic art or visionary art, these terms are kind of muddy, but it's art that comes from spiritual expressions, soul. And yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit utopic, but it's at least like a blueprint of going further from our human experience into like beyond our godly selves, or at least higher than just our normal human selves. It's like at least a direction of where we want to move. So I think it's good medicine. And you were saying before how there's this psychedelic renaissance. It's also happening through arts, like psychedelic arts, like getting everywhere. And that's awesome, because before it was just like, oh, that's some like hippie drug art. I'm not down with it. But now like rappers are getting into it, and just like normal people are starting to use more colors, and like psychedelia, which is almost like the flavor and the colors of the spiritual dimension, are starting to permeate into our human world. So that gives me hope, and hopefully more of this medicine keeps on reaching more and more people, as to bring the healing of all of us. We're all sick in different ways, and hopefully we can all heal and unite and create a better humanity. And yeah, now I can get to my plugs. So all right, so if you want to find me, my webpage is positivecreations.ca, as in Canada. Oh, look at it, beautiful. Oh, gorgeous. Yeah, don't you want to go to that webpage and check out my art? And maybe go to my store and buy some products.
I want to eat a mushroom first and then go buy all your products.
Right, amazing. And then you can wear it and all this stuff. Then I also got a YouTube channel where I got a couple projects. One is a traveling show. And then I recently started my own podcast, which is mostly artists, but there's also musicians. My last person I interviewed was a psychic. Super interesting interview. So go and check it out if you like podcasts and stuff. And yeah, that's some of my offerings. Oh, I also seem to have an Instagram. So there's my blog I posted today, and there you can also see that giant mural I was working on like earlier this week. And yeah, so you can just catch up to what I'm up to every single day. That's a logo I just made. And basically before that I was that's the Austin, Texas giant mural. Before that I was in LA, and I did the social, etc. But that's where you can catch up to my everyday activities, and I'm paint every single day. So if you're into that. And where else? I don't know, I'm on the internet, but you can hire me or you cannot hire me. It doesn't matter. I'm your friend either way. Because just come, if you see me, I'm in your town, come and say hi. I'm going to be in San Clemente, California this Saturday. If you're in Southern California, We can hang out, drink a couple beers, talk about aliens, and I'll be painting a surfboard with Drew Brophy, the king of surf art. So that should be exciting.
That's awesome, man. I just want to tell people that you painted. It was like a childhood house of Bob Marley in Jamaica or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I got invited to paint his mausoleum. So the mausoleum is a complex where there's his house where he was born and grew up, and then there's also the resting place where he's buried. I didn't paint the house itself or the mausoleum itself, but painted one of the buildings in that complex.
Beautiful.
But yeah, I'm in there in Jamaica, and I've also in other museums around the world, in Amsterdam, in Russia, Peru, etc. Yeah, my art's around.
I love it, man. One love. Let's get together and feel all right, ladies and gentlemen. Yo, Chris.
Yeah.
It's been real, man. Dude, I really appreciate what you got going on.
Thank you.
I'm excited for the podcast that we did. When it comes out, I'll blast it out.
Ben's gonna be a guest on my podcast. It's gonna come in like a month because I release my episodes every 2 weeks, and there's like a few guests before him. But I'll be picking his brain, and yeah, you should check it out. So subscribe to my YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a good friend, Ben. I love you. Once again, it's awesome that we're connected through our friends out there in Tennessee, and hopefully I'll see you soon enough for more adventures and good times and conversations.
It'll happen. I can see the future. And yep, there it is. We're going to do it again. And the next time we do it, it's going to be somewhere sunny and there's going to be a beach. I feel it.
Costa Rica?
Yeah. Maybe that is it. Yeah. I do have a Mai Tai in my hand. So,
ooh, I like it.
My God, this was great, man. I really appreciate the depth of the conversation and also just the lightness of the conversation, man. Always appreciate you. Appreciate your art, Gordo. Always appreciate you and chiming in there, keeping the conversation going.
Thank you, Gordon.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Guys. I enjoyed it.
So for everyone listening, remember, this is a Wednesday show to accommodate Chris. He's going to be flying tomorrow, but we usually do it every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And just keep coming back. We got a lot of rich content, and I'll catch you all next time on the Ben Stewart Podcast.